Okay. I got this pin is green pen. Green pen. Few moments later. Oh, jeez. There we go. Oof. What up, Schmoedown rockers? So that finals was something, though, huh? I mean, well, before we get to that, this whole thing, I mean, yeah, Andrew Guy is, you know, as expected with it, and once again, the same thing as always. It's as what I said last time, the last one. So, yeah, it just quarantine makes you crazy. Yeah. But anyways. The match itself, I'm going to keep this shorter than my usual ones because there's not much to talk about other than the match and maybe some predictions. But, you know, the match itself, I kind of had a feeling who was already going to win the moment round one started off the way it fucking did. Granted, it got better and it managed to become a more interesting match in a way that allowed, at the very least, and even for a 5-rounder match, I find this match to be possibly a little more interesting than the singles tournament match. Probably even more so interesting than with the exception of maybe the Star Wars match. The matches we have been getting tournament-wise, I wouldn't say those finals are as good as what we got here and in that one. And in the Star Wars one, or at least Star Wars one had a lot more going on with it, going into it, compared to any of the other ones, and was the first one to do it. And it's now laid the groundwork for whatever Star Wars tournament they do in the future, which hopefully will actually be more in studio and during actual live events. Though good luck doing live events now with it, or getting anyone out of pandemic to do it. Though I'm sure there's plenty of people that are Schmoedown fans that will still do it and will be willing to go anyway, as long as it's a little more on the safe side, which is going to still be tough to do and to get bigger crowds. And I think that's what COVID's pretty much hurt the Schmoedown in of itself at this point. But this match definitely did not do any hurt to it at all. If anything, it made us looking forward to the spectacular, even given the circumstances of COVID, even more interesting. And I really enjoyed this match, and I really enjoyed what we got from this. From the start of this finals between Final Exam and them, the thing was I think a lot of people going into this were more worried about where Lon was going to be going into this match, and somehow, for the most part, it seems at least more so round one at least, he carried this match, because right off of the bat, within the first two questions, Oyama missed them. They didn't even, and I don't know if he just felt that confident in his answers and didn't bother to risk using the repeats when he needed to help them, at least for at least one of them, so it wouldn't have been as bad, and then it would have been down even smaller points. And unfortunately, it was for that round one. It seemed he was down. After that, he picked up the rest of the way, but by that point, it didn't matter because he wouldn't have been able to get the bonus. And given the fact that apparently both Andrico and Snyder, the odd couple as a whole, went completely perfect. And so did it's looking good for Roxy now to where now she has a true right to being nominated, at least nominated for Manager of the Year, and possible actual chance of winning if for some reason Odd Couple pull the win again at the Spectacular themselves against them. That's right, they wound up winning this match. How it happened, as I had stated, mostly round one was the deciding factor. But it was a deciding factor, and even more so the fact that they got all their questions. Each team got all their questions. Difference is one of them had to go to multiple choice, and we're only able to pull one, which given that team was already behind enough by 3 as it is, they had to get 3 more. They were down by 4, but they were able to. Oyama at least got most of all of his questions, and unfortunately, both in Draco's cases, they both managed to bet the same amount of points and both got the answer right, still putting them down once again by 4 in the fourth round. Fourth round was insane with the questions. The round was insane, and apparently both in Draco on the A set, which in Draco and Lon Harris did, and Draco just, I'm hearing an echo over this way. But anyways, and Oyama went perfect. We barely got to see much from kind of what I think went perfect, or at least almost did, but slipped and realized he needed to say pass and get back to it and give himself time, which worked out in his favor because he eventually wound up getting all of his questions right in that round. Pass is more of a friend than you think in that one, and unfortunately, when he answered the one question, when both him and Draco got to them, they both got the year wrong, completely wrong. They might have answered a different year, I think, and they got it wrong. So, which is insane. So, it is just, and pretty, but he was able to, despite the miss, get enough points going with the way it was looking. It seemed he was able to get enough points to tie it, and all it took was having Snyder at least do enough to be as far ahead as he could before the 30 seconds ran out. And was able to at least get them back to a 3-point deficit, get them 3 points ahead of them going into the next round, basically forcefully putting, or at least keeping enough distance in the same sense of what had happened earlier in the match. Which, if only Oyama if he was, but apparently he was confident in his answers, and it backfired on him. And I think if he had a chance to use repeats on those 2 answers he did have, maybe this outcome would have been different. And it wouldn't have hit them as hard as it did for final exam. But they managed to. But it was probably one of the highest and record-breaking scoring matches, 48-45. They were able to, all of them pulled all their questions in the round 3. In fact, final exam, to where no TKO or knockout happened. And it was final exam got their 5-pointer, which honestly might have been the harder one of them. But it was harder one of them because I even knew the 5-pointer for odd couples, which I thought was kind of easier, actually, because there was way more context clues in that 5-point question as opposed to the one that final exam had. And I'm glad that final exam pushed them to where they had to really earn it. So now odd couple who already were very much dominated early on in this fucking tournament. And this was great because it was knockdown dragout finals, to where it really did come down to the very last question without having to go to sudden death, I mean, in the sense of scenario where it led to that, and odd couple had to earn their right to go and face them and prove why they were former champs in the first place and why they deserved to be at Spectacular to get those to be a chance to be two-time championship team again. And that's what happened. I knew his with Reba like kind of around the same time that Draco figured it out, and Draco was the one that pulled it, not Snyder, because Snyder had no clue about, and it was the Tremors question. It wasn't, which I'm trying to remember what the other question was. I think I kind of knew that one too, but I'm blanking on what the question was. Forgive me, but theirs I think might have been a little harder, but with the 5-pointer, because those are the ones I remembered the most out of it. But overall, I enjoyed this match. This match was enjoyable and probably definitely a match of the year contender of the tournament matches outside of the Star Wars finals match. Even though I think people will still, for the Star Wars matches, would probably prefer the round 1 match that Andrew DiMolata and what's his face that I'm blanking on would have gotten, but anyways, that's kind of what happened with this. And going forward, with this, and it seems that going forward with what we have, I do see another knockout and dragout Star Wars championship that will probably be talked about even more so than Whitwer versus Knapsack for sure. Or between Damon and Cabrera. I do believe that's what this match will hopefully be intended to do, and I'm hoping it delivers in that regard. And the real bigger question is, can Cabrera pull off the win and finally be the one to slay the beast, or will once again Damon find a way to win? Because it's been a really long time since the tournament match, and so maybe there's a little bit of rust on both of these players anyway, and maybe this match may not turn out as well as knockdown dragout as we would like it to be, but we don't know how this is going to pan out. But then we have the Jericho versus Le Champion himself, Chris Jericho, who's facing another 0-1 big 0-1 player in the Brittany Young. I feel awful because I'm the Dungeon Master here, but of course, I want to root for them, but I'm in a pickle in the sense that I understand for Jericho's sake that he needs the win more than her in this regard, but I do hope for a good fight, and if somehow he's won over and finally gets a win to where he at least has a win under his belt and he'd be willing to come back to actually come back into the match. And I wonder if she's going to be like thinking fairly easy questions, not realizing that they're trying to ease Jericho in, and hoping that he pulls a win because they want him to get a W. They want him to get a W and get more people of the wrestling like that want to be involved in this, including Cody Rhodes, who's also spoke interest as well. Some people that were former WWE superstars that have now become part of AEW, there's a pull there in the wrestling world. Since those are already bigger known names at this point, as well as the fact that one of them is already a legacy. It has a legacy of having an older brother and a father who's being like third generation and stuff. So but anyways, those wrestlers involved in something like this, just to get more that understand how the theatrical aspects of it that come from the pro wrestling itself come into play here in the Schmoedown. So I'm looking forward to how that goes. With that, the Intergeekdom title, I can't believe I have to pull for Chance for this, just because I don't want to see, obviously for my personal reasons, I don't really want to see Chandy retain. Yeah, I don't. I'm still bitter about how it went, and given what's happened with Smets, and finding out he was dealing with it during the match makes it worse for me to even bother to watch it. It's still a tight match, but enough to but when you know the context, it does hurt it a little bit in the same sense as how some people will say nowadays about Rachel versus Mara, Rachel Cushing versus Mara Kanopik in that pseudo first tournament, you know, that corrupted tournament, even though we wound up having a corrupted tournament at the end of this one, this recent one, which just was so fucked up. But anyways, the other thing is that the match with the thing with that, and then I believe after that it's supposed to be the team's title match. Yes. Team's title match. That, like I said, that one's up in the air for me. I kind of don't care which one wins as long as it's a great teams match and is up there with Shire Wolves versus even better, and somehow on par, if not somehow better than Shire Wolves versus Odd Couple. And that had a lot more other forms of stakes going into that. This one does, and it's Odd Couple being one of the only more legacy teams coming in as the challenger against the current champs, who were on fire when they were lights out when they played Corruption, as opposed to Corruption themselves when they got the belts. Don't know if they still will be, or still have that hunger in them to retain, to at least use it to retain, or if it just didn't work for, or will Odd Couple's momentum, to having come just off of this, go into there and them grabbing the belts. Because it could be a possibility. For sure, with Odd Couple. And definitely at this point, it'd be stupid for her not to keep Odd Couple next season. It's more likely her and Jericho, them and Jericho are going to be the ones that stay signed with the Rock Stars, and then it's just, after that it's finding a way to pick up Damon, and then eventually try to find a way to pick up Damon again. You know, because Damon went far, at least in the intermediate tournament, because he was able to get matches in, and it's unfortunate that it was just out of pure luck that he lost how he lost to Kalinowski, because I think if the wheel didn't treat him with the DC or DCE, which was obviously a massive strength of Kalinowski's, sees both of them, it just didn't work, and he figured, and he should have, and I think whichever one it was, DCEU or DC, either one of them, I think one he knew is more confident in than the other, which he wished he wouldn't have spun away from, and at least he would have got more points, and it would have been a much more tighter match, and maybe it would have been more of a TKO instead of a knockout, but because at least it would have went to round 3. But that's what sucked. It was that he wandered that far behind. He didn't perform that as well as he should have, and it was kind of a bummer with that match. So him coming off of that, he's probably more fired up now with that, and then seeing how Andres is, it's going to be. He's gonna knuckle. They're both gonna knuckle down. It'll be that, like I said with that. But and once again back to that, and then we have the other bigger non-title match in Kevin Smith versus Brett Sheridan. Both are 1-0. More likely, of course, Kevin Smith will probably pull it, but it wouldn't be the craziest upset of all time if somehow Brett Sheridan pulled the win for some strange reason. But I mean, crazier things have happened. Other than that, there is also, then of course the main event, the singles match, and the first in a long time since the first Spectacular dance to say that it is the current 4-time movie trivia Schmoedown champion of the world himself. Unfortunately, having come off of a recent loss in the semifinals, when I was with Founding Fathers, Rokas just can't bring it, and it's not like he bring it as much. And they were already struggling. They got lucky that they had a win, but it wasn't a very confident one, and they needed to have. And they weren't playing as lights out as. I mean, they were playing. It's funny how they played lights out, but they were closer in line. In tightness in that match, in the round 1s, I guess, and in round 2, when going boom, 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 on Oyama's end, at least with Oscars, that match, and this with that one, so, but yeah, So him coming off of this loss with that, he's itching to get this win, and Collins coming off his loss with Deception in the semifinals. It was the only loss he's ever had. Yeah, and both the 3 and the 5, which I don't think he's ever been able to get the 3-pointers for some reason, when it came to that point. But he was able to get his 5. He just got lucky that it went to sudden death, and was able to pull it against Brandon the Kid Meyer, which was a much closer call and probably one of the better matches in that singles tournament. So it's tough to say. Collins has shown that he has weak spots. And both are coming off these losses, and now they're going to be more hungrier than ever for one of them to want to retain, and probably be the first to retain the belt that singles belt more than twice. Nice, which will also already show how great Dan is, if he can pull it. Or will Collins somehow, through at least in singles, still be unbeatable? Is what it's looking like. And if that is the case, it might, depending on how that goes, between that and the Intergeekdom Championship, we'll see how those go and see where that will lead Corruption moving forward as a faction. I'm not going to underestimate Collins, but I don't think you should underestimate Dan Murrell. I'm hoping, just as every other person, that it becomes more down to the wire, and it's going to be, and this match, hoping for what it is, and circumstantially, be able to somehow, as a singles title match, top what happened, top at least the first spectacular singles title match. Because that still remains, of the spectacular matches, to be the all of the singles title matches between them. So it was, but yeah. Overall, what did you guys think? Leave a comment below. Let me know. As always, guys, keep it random, keep it real, links in the description below. If you like this video, rock that like button with thrust if you must. As always, just keep it random, keep it real, keep it rockin'. Also, like and follow me in the description page. Also, go to the GoFundMe page for the Smasher. And, sure, of course, do so. So, this is Rockin' Movies with Tyler. I've been Tyler. If you smell what the movie trivia Schmoedown and Schmoedown Rocks and Skype Entertainment, so on and so forth, is cooking. Dig it. See you spectacular.